Hey everybody, this is your pal Austin with Fantasy Baseball on Deck, and today's video is going to be a little bit different. A couple days ago, I discovered the trend that's sweeping the nation, at least with the fantasy baseball and baseball nerd community, and that is the Immaculate Grid. And if you can imagine with how much time I put into making fantasy baseball analyst videos, I'm pretty good at baseball trivia, so I thought that this would be an extra fun thing to sort of do on the side on top of my weekly fantasy baseball analyst video. So I'm going to specifically teach you how I go about beating the grid every day, and I think that I have a little bit of a special take, or an interesting take at least, compared to the other people that have been doing this so far. So if I share my screen here, if you don't know what the Immaculate Grid is, this is their Twitter page, and it's kind of like Wordle, but for baseball trivia. You essentially are given a grid every day. So you get 9 guesses. There are 9 boxes, and the goal is to fill in every box in 9 guesses only to consider yourself immaculate and perfect. What you are going to do essentially is for the teams that you see. So say if the Angels and the Washington Nationals are the box here that you're looking at, you are looking for a player who has played for both of those teams throughout their career. And then if you see, generally there's going to be 1 or 2 stat lines on the end of the graph, the grid. And this is going to essentially ask you to either complete a career stat or a season stat for either a batter or a pitcher. And so for this, Angela's pitched or earned 20 wins in a season. Now, the caveat with this is that if you had a player that was a 20-win season player with another team, and they played 1 season or like pitched 1 inning essentially with the Angels, then they count. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a Nolan Ryan who had a 20-win season with the Angels. It could be another player who had earned 20 wins, maybe like a Jamison Talion, who just he just went to the Cardinals. Whoever the other Yankees pitcher is that just signed with the Angels last year. Anyways, I'm getting off track, but I'm going to show you kind of like how I go about completing this, and you get a bonus point. So say for this, again, we'll stick with this first grid here, Angels and Nationals. A lot of you probably already said like, oh, Anthony Rendon played for both of those teams, but the more rare of an answer you can give, so like the lesser known players that you can put in earn more points. So we are going to go ahead and run through this, and let's see what we can do. Anyways, so you're going to type in Immaculate Grid. If you don't want to type it in, I have it sit in the comments section or the description to play on your own. And I just described to you how I play, or how to play. So we're going to go ahead and click into this. And I'm going to set a timer to see how quickly I can do it. The goal here, again, is to get everything perfect without any misses. Here is what's valuable to you. There are a set of journeymen in the Major League Baseball that are pretty well traveled. Again, journeyman is the key here. So what I focus on and what I'm trying to accomplish when I get the teams is like, if I'm looking for a player who's played between the Nationals and the Marlins and then combining them with these teams, I'm not thinking of star-studded Nationals like Trey Turner. Trey Turner's been a shortstop for the Nationals, the Dodgers, and now the Phillies, who essentially got traded right before he was due arbitration, do his big contract, and then signed a 10+ year contract with the Phillies. He's only played for 3 teams. He very well could have only played for 2 teams if the Nationals didn't decide a couple of years ago to clean house. So the superstar players generally are only going to play for 1 or 2 teams. They're going to play for a small market team. They're going to get signed by a large market team. That's just kind of the way that it goes. So the way that I want to look about this is my immediate scope to beat this and beat it fairly quickly is to think about starting pitchers that were like bottom of the rotation guys, but have been around forever. So like between 3 and 5 starters in the rotation. So an example of those 2 guys would be like a Rich Hill or a Bartolo Colon. Both players played for almost double-digit teams throughout their very long career. And then there's the guys that are like very much the 5-hole starting pitchers within the rotation, but they're just meant to basically eat innings. And they played again, forever. So another example of that, like of an inning eater, would be an Edwin Jackson, who played for an astonishing 14 teams. So like Edwin Jackson pretty much is a cheat code. If you ever are down to your very last guess, Edwin Jackson is the easiest throw out, because he has played for exactly or almost exactly half of the teams in Major League Baseball. So it really is a 50-50 shot. And then also I want to think about relief pitchers. Relief pitchers never really get big contracts. They only pitch, again, for an inning at a time. They're very niche guys, so they happen to transition from team to team pretty often. So like you want to think about setup guys that were really good. So like I really think of like trade acquisition guys. So setup men who are really, really good, like a Brad Boxberger or a Jesse Chavez throughout their career, or closers that are like absolutely fringy and wild, but playoff teams need, they're like, you know, a guy with extra stuff. So they go from being the closer on a bad team to being the setup guy on a really good team. And that would make me think of a guy like Fernando Rodney, who played for 11 teams. If you go to think about position players, you want to think about, there's two separate categories. There's the category specialist. So a guy that's specifically really, really good at a niche, who would be something similar to like an example would be Jonathan Villar. Jonathan Villar, some years ago, had 62 steals in an entire season. So he just speed on the base pass and defense alone has earned a spot on a roster with a lot of different teams, but never really earned that long-term contract because he was so specialized. And then the similar Nelson Cruz, obviously a much like more talented, consistent player than Jonathan Villar, but because Nelson Cruz hasn't played defense, hasn't played in the outfield in almost a decade or the better part of a decade, and is only a DH spot, it really limits the amount of teams that he can play for, and he never earned a long-term contract given that he is in his 40s and still playing right now with the Padres. So examples of category specialists. And then the other one I want to think about, all-star alternates. So all-star alternates who are like, there's two separate subcategories within these guys. There's the statistical outlier, has like one guy has a specific, like one huge breakout campaign early in his career. And then from that point on, sort of like doesn't rest on his laurels, but more, people understand like, oh, that potential is always there, but we can hone it like the other team couldn't hone it. He showed it once, he can for sure do it again. So a guy like that makes me think of like Adam Duvall, who has had a couple different really like awesome seasons specifically, but bounces around a lot from teams, hasn't gotten a long-term deal from anybody. And then the next is the guy who is like a serial short-term deal, pretty productive player, but just for whatever reason also didn't get the long-term deal. So like guys like Starling Marte and like Hunter Renfroe would be examples. And if we look at the stats, so like the stat category here, I am thinking about players that there's again, you're looking for players that obviously played for one of these teams, but are also career Hall of Famers are always the best guess for whether it's a batter or a pitcher. If it's a batter and you're looking for a career stat overall, Hank Aaron and Barry Bonds seem to be power speed combo seem to be like one of your easiest guesses or like easiest ways to capitalize on that section. If it's a pitching section for a career, Nolan Ryan owns about every pitching stat record that there is. He's always a safe guess in the fact that he played in the Major League Baseball system for almost like 30 years. That'll never be done again. So anything volume wise, Nolan Ryan is your guy. And then for a batters for a season, thinking about just very dynamic recent MVPs like an Andrew McCutchen, who hit a bunch of home runs and also stole a lot of bases in the season when he was with the Pirates, is always a good answer. And then obviously batters for or pitchers for an entire for a season like this 20 plus win season, you're going to think of like recent guys who have won the Cy Young on offensively productive teams. So that's about how I go at it. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and just start working through it. We're already 9 minutes in. So going to hit the start button and go. Okay. So I think about again, I already talked about, and I've had an opportunity to look at these teams and think about it. Washington Nationals and the Angels. The first answer, I'm sure the most popular one, because you get bonus points for being rare, but obviously if you're being rare, like you're setting yourself up to maybe make mistakes to get people like mixed up. So everybody's going to think, oh, Anthony Rendon, that's an easy answer. And it is an easy answer. But my first thought, or like second thought actually, was Howie Kendrick, who absolutely played for both the Nationals and the Angels, and I guarantee that that's a really low score, 8% for Howie Kendrick. Okay, awesome. I think about who I mentioned before, Jonathan Villar, and what's cool about Jonathan Villar is that he played for the Marlins, the Angels, the Cubs, and the Mets. So I think about like, I'm not going to use Jonathan Villar yet, knowing that he's my most flexible guy. He's going to be the last one that I fill in. So I'm going to go down to the Cubs and the Nationals. I know right off the top of my head that Kyle Schwarber played 1 or 2 seasons with the Nationals, obviously started out with the Cubs. I'm sure he's probably a pretty popular guess, but I actually, because he, by one fantasy league, really restricts our lineups to relief pitchers and starting pitchers. You can only have a max of both. Starting pitchers who are relief pitcher tags are really valuable. So I know for a fact that Trevor Williams of the now Cubs, or no, the now Nationals, he was a Cub to start out his career. And that's going to give me some really rare points. Trevor Williams is going to give me 1%. Okay, awesome. That makes me feel good. Okay, we're off to a good start. Okay, so we'll just go straight down the line. Obviously, I think of a Max Scherzer for the Washington Nationals and the Mets. So I think about, okay, well, so if I know Max Scherzer was a National and a Met, thank you, Russell. I know that Max Scherzer was a National and a Met. I also want to think about, well, does he fit into this category of 20 plus wins? And he absolutely does. He's 100% had 20 plus wins before. And he hasn't had necessarily 20 plus wins as a Met. And I don't know for sure, but I guarantee that he had a 20 plus win as a National just overall. So because he was a 20 plus win at one point in his career and he has played for the Mets, he would count here, meaning Max Scherzer. But like, I kind of want to maybe keep this open because I know that I think like R.A. Dickey, his crazy knuckleball year that like no one could touch him with the Mets, I'm sure that he won 20 games that season as well. So I think like I'm just going to be safe knowing that I can't really think of any other Mets Nationals right off the top of my head at this second. So I'm going to go just the easy answer, Max Scherzer. And I'm sure that like this is probably going to be the number one answer of anyone put in so far. So 57%, I'm sure that's probably number one. So I go up to the Angels and the Marlins. Angels and Marlins, I am thinking about, oh goodness, this is starting to get hard. So, okay, let's just go like, I know that Nolan Ryan has a 20 plus winning season. He played for the both California Angels and the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. So Nolan Ryan is, I pretty much put in Nolan Ryan somewhere every single time I play this. So Nolan Ryan, that is going to count. 45%. Okay. The next is going, okay, 20 plus win season. Greg Maddux is probably the number one guess for the Cubs because he was pretty well known there. I like to think that the most recent Cy Young winner for the Cubs is probably Jake Arrieta. I'm sure he's probably pretty popular as well. John Lester was the ace during the 2016 World Series team that scored all of those runs. I'm sure he had 20 wins at some point in the knowing that John Lester was a Boston Red Sox even before then. I'm sure that he's had a 20-win season as well. But Jake Arrieta was untouchable for a couple different years. So I'm just gonna be safe and go Jake Arrieta route, knowing that he's just overall at his peak was more talented than John Lester. So I'm gonna hope that Jake Arrieta counts for, okay, cool. He got 20 wins, and I assume that, again, lots of run support. And going on next to I talked earlier about players that played for multiple of these teams, right? So I have already mentioned before that Jonathan Villar played for all three of these teams and the Marlins. So again, I'm going to wait to use Jonathan Villar, knowing that I can put him in any of these places in the middle at least. And I got to kind of brainstorm otherwise. The Well, I mentioned earlier before there was the players that like are always pretty successful, but like never got the long-term deal. And that immediately makes me think of Starling Marte, who's just bounced around from a bunch of different teams. I know for a fact that Starling Marte played for the Mets, and he plays for the Mets now, and he played for the Marlins before getting traded. So I'm going to put in Starling Marte and be pretty pumped about that. If it'll, yeah, if we're bringing up, okay, Starling Marte, cool. All right, sick. Now I'm thinking about Cubs, Marlins. Man, really drawing a blank here. Again, that might be my Jonathan VR fill. But again, we'll try to brainstorm this one first. We'll go down to the Mets, 20-win season. Mets 21 season. I mentioned before, R.A. Dickey was so. I just remember I was in early high school or late middle school. Early high school. I think my sophomore year of high school, R.A. Dickey was like the phenom of all of Major League Baseball. And then also there was that year where Batman, what was his name? Gosh, he even played for the Reds afterwards. His nickname was the Dark Knight, and then he wasn't able to pitch, or he wasn't healthy enough to pitch, or didn't want to pitch during the playoffs, a bunch of that crap. So anyways, I'm going to guess R.A. Dickey, given that like he was, again, pretty much unstoppable for an entire season, and hope that that's the case, given that they probably had a lot of run support. Mets always score a lot. I'm a little stressed. Okay. All right. R.A. Dickey counts. Obviously showing off a lot of confidence here. Then the Marlins and the – okay. So go back to my rules. I think about the oh, goodness. If I'm thinking about, like, setup guys like Brad Boxberger is bounced around a lot, but I don't know if he was an Angel. Bartolo Colon was absolutely an Angel, but I don't remember if he was a Marlin. Oh, goodness. I think about, like, innings eaters at the end of the rotation, thinking about who is currently their setup guy or the Marlins setup guy to get to AJ Puck. Is Floro, before Floro. Floro hasn't left Miami. Okay, so let's think about Miami and Chicago. So Chicago Cubs and Marlins. This is where I'm really starting to struggle. Gosh. Okay, I think I'm completely blank on Cubs Marlins, so I'm going to go Jonathan VR just to keep things rolling here. Oh, Jonathan VR. I know if that counts. Okay, and the Angels, Marlins. I mentioned earlier, Fernando Rodney was like on my my list of like fringy closer guys that are wild. I know that he was an Angel. I'm pretty sure that he was a Marlin too. So I'm like, just to get this done and be over with, Fernando Rodney. Oh, Rodney. Oh, geez. Rodney. And with not a ton of confidence, ran around. Oh my God, I did it! Sick. Okay. Okay, Fernando Rodney playing for 11 different teams. I don't specifically remember him being a Marlin, but I know he was that's the thing. It's like with these types of players. So 9 minutes, just over 9 minutes, I accomplished this with a perfect score. Pretty proud of myself. So let's look down and see, like, this is a point you can see today's stats, and you can see that the average score is 6.6. So we're well ahead of that. Most people struggle with that one. Okay, so like the one that I was stuck on at the very end there, 36% of people got correct. So that makes me feel a little better. And then if I go down, Justin Bauer was the number one pick for that. Jorge Soler, I didn't realize he was a Cub. And we have some similars with Max Scherzer and Starling Marte. And I, again, see like the Anthony Rendon was 76%. Because I went Howie Kendrick, I earned a higher, rarity score, which I don't know, necessarily what that what that plays into. But anyway, it's just something fun to do throughout the week. Every single day, these reset at midnight. So I really look forward to them. I hope that you do too. Again, look at the comments, play along if you would like, and let me know how you like it, I guess. All right, see you. Bye.